Right, hey everyone. Happy to present end of public wallets. And there are a few problems with public wallets. And we adopted this technology from a while ago, and everyone is using EOAs. But the inherent problem is because they are public. Imagine you're moving from private banking accounts to public EOAs, and it implies that everyone can see your data now. No one can really use public EOAs from a traditional standpoint because if you do payments, everyone can see your wallet address and history of transactions. If you do payroll, your competitors can see how much you're paying your employees. And for large volume traders and institutions, this is the biggest fundamental problem that doesn't allow to scale blockchain to real world use cases. We saw the hack of Bybit recently, and everyone actually tries to figure out how to make this wallet infrastructure more secure. But imagine that no one could see the wallets of signers. Then the hack wouldn't happen. So public blockchains need same level of privacy as traditional banking. To scale to the next level and fulfill the premise of crypto to substitute traditional banking rails. And the solution we are going to present is actually enabled recently with the advantages and advancements that we just achieved with TEs, stealth address, and ZKs. And we are going to introduce same level of user experience as people are getting using traditional wallets, but without revealing any public data. And this is a true innovation that allows us to scale public blockchains where every institution, consumer can join and feel safe. And then you can imagine new use cases such as people paying for their goods in the stores using blockchains, and no one can see the data and money, how much they have on the wallet. And as I mentioned, there are three pillars in our tech that is completely different from public wallets. First is ZK, and ZK enables privacy of a sender. Stealth addresses enable privacy for recipient. And TEs improve speed of proof generation because ZK is still consumer-heavy infrastructure.
Yeah, I will comment more in detail here. So imagine a user wants to do some transaction. He wants to send money to another user B. To do so, he needs to execute transaction, and he needs to prove that he has enough funds. And he does this with ZK. He proves to smart contract that he holds some funds in smart contracts for later transfer to user B. Or user B. User B may give some address to user A to receive these funds. And this address shouldn't be persistent address. It should be one-time address. And here, when stealth addresses comes to action. So stealth address is address generated for one transaction, and user can receive for each stealth address separate funds from user, and these funds shouldn't be linked with each other. This is essentially privacy of a receiver. And still, ZK technology is progressing, but proof generation is still compute heavy. That's why client proof generation is not very fast currently, unless you have M4 and circuits are quite simple. That's why we're introducing TE as an option for the user to delegate this proof generation to beefy machines on the backend. And here we describe the structure of this wallet. So essentially, wallet is a smart contract on EVM chains that holds different shielded addresses of many users. The user flow is next. So the user goes to application. He wants to do transaction, let's say swap in Uniswap. First thing he needs to do, he needs to prove that in smart contract he has enough funds to do this transaction. He does a CK, he can do it in client, he may delegate this transaction to remote server. Once he proved to smart contract that he has enough funds, these funds are released to him. The transactions are executed by third parties called relayers, so the EOA of the user never leaks on chain. And the swap token, let's say it was USDC to USDT. USDT is deposited to the stealth address of the user. There are different types of transactions that user can do with this scheme. We differentiate between different types of transactions, but there are two main types. The first type is called stateless transaction, and the second type is stateful transaction. I will explain the difference between them. So, stateless transaction, when your current state, your current payoff doesn't depend on a past history. Think about Uniswap swap. Your payoff depends only on a price and the amount you want to swap. But for curve, let's think about curve and curve staking. You can get reward from curve staking, and this reward not only depends on your current data, but also on past history. In this case, the period you hold staked amount in the curve contract. So in this case, we call it stateful. Your payoff depends on history. And it will come to action why this differentiation between action is important. So let's think about these two flows, stateless flow and stateful flow. In stateless flow, it's simple. It's some tokens in, some tokens out. There is a black box. It's a third-party smart contract like Uniswap, 1inch. And tokens are withdrawn and then deposited to the stealth address. But with stateful transactions, it's a little bit different because somehow state should be preserved. And for this, we are introducing sub-accounts. Sub-accounts is smart contracts which are under management of the main shielded address. So for example, when you want to do staking on Curve and then getting rewards from Curve, you need some smart contract to preserve this state. So in this case, you're a little bit compromising on privacy. Your two transactions are getting linked together, but the good thing is that it can be isolated from all other your actions. So you stake on Curve, you do reward, but then you just leave this smart account and move to the second one. So you compromise these two actions with each other, you link these two actions with each other, but they're isolated, they're local, they're not linked with all other actions that you do with your wallet.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the major problem with privacy before with other solutions, whether it's private chains or private dApps, was that they were not composable. And it means that you were locked in one UI or software, and that could only send or receive tokens, and it was quite clunky and costly. Now we are removing these boundaries and enabling first-time composability of privacy with private wallet that feels and acts like public wallets but maintains full data privacy on chain. And here's how transactions are recorded. So instead of EOAs, you see Hinkal smart contract for all of them and relay address. So you can maintain your history of transaction, your assets, and wallet address. So it's a full privacy like you have in the banking account without some parties. Banks can still show your data to governments, right? But here it's under your full control. And here's the answer why not private chains, right? So we have few private chains, some of them are pretty well known. And the answer is simple, right? So private chains introduce fragmentation of liquidity, and you need separate dApps there and ecosystem. But then where we are hitting right now, especially with payments, is that you should have intermediary yield between pay in and pay out. And this yield mostly happens on Ethereum, now like extensible to Solana, but not on these chains, right? So we have to figure out privacy on public chains with a major liquidity to enable everyone to onboard to public chains. And the best user experience here is you don't need to move, you stay there and fully private. And the use case, we start Hinkal in 23. And we started first with asset managers. And why asset managers need privacy is because when they manage assets, they receive money directly to their wallets. And the problem is that now LPs know the wallets, right? Once they grow AUM, there is no need to pay commission. Why don't they just do the same transactions? So this is actually the biggest problem that they are facing. Is second use case, also for institutional users such as liquid funds, is AMM pools. So when they participate in AMM pools, the wallet is public, it immediately attracts attention and other parties participate. Here, all AMM pool participants can be, can act as Hinkal private wallet. So no one can actually understand like what's the sizing and who is the owner of the stakes. And the second use case that we just started working and this use case finally happened for payments is request. Network integrated Hinkal to enable privacy for B2B and payroll. And this is one of the largest use cases because finally payroll is happening on chain. Biggest companies are moving on chain. And then for all employers, the privacy is must because when they pay employees, there's this secrecy basically. You don't want your employees to know how much you pay other employees, and you don't want competitors to know because they can steal your employees and just offer higher salaries. And same applies to B2B payment. Think about breach, right? So Stripe acquired breach with the premise that it will enable all merchants having wallets, right, and transacting stablecoins. It implies then that all revenues will be converted to stablecoins as well. Right, but imagine a merchant paying someone else, right, and then showing all revenues in stablecoins. So there's currently there's urgent need with public UAs to off-ramp and on-ramp immediately. But if they want to keep exposure to stables, there's privacy of wallet that is extremely needed in this use case. And then the last one, which is kind of historic one, but now with new administration, it scales up pretty quickly, is token liquidations. And the problem for token liquidations is when you vest tokens to EOAs and then liquidate them, it immediately attracts a lot of attention and basically affects token price. And this is not right? So think about traditional markets. You can sell position without actually attracting attention, and this requires then intermediaries such as OTC to participate. But if these tokens are vested directly to private smart contract, private wallets, no one can identify who owns which part of this token. And they can liquidate without any risk to impact the market. Wow. A bit of music. No.
It's locked now.
Do you really like Gross 16?
I love them. It's the only super house for
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Right? Sorry. Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Back?
Yep.
And of course, one of the most important questions is compliance, how we handle compliance. And you saw what happened with Tornado Cash, so we have to make sure we don't have same precedents. And this way, we did tiered approach. First, we limit deposits, like permissionless deposits, with 1K. So with 1K, users can try and verify basically that it works, use wallet, increase portfolio, right? but then it disincentivizes big players from depositing bigger amounts because otherwise they won't be able to use it. And second, like what happens with above 1K, it's really simple. So there are a couple of new solutions that allow you to just prove certain data point that you did KYC somewhere else, and then you reuse it to participate, to create private wallet and onboard as much money as you have. So this way you can have really big amounts, and you can just verify you have Binance account without providing any data to us. Zero knowledge proof is generated that you have Binance account, and then we accept it, so you have full flexibility over the data and over the usage of Hinkal. And then we have 24/7 on-chain monitoring with chain analysis. And since our first customers were institutions, now payments, right? This is especially crucial, how we can make sure that there are no illicit users and they can directly off-ramp from private address to centralized exchanges. And the ecosystem consists of 3 different layers that we offer. First is Invisible Wallet. This is consumer products. Everyone can install. It's a browser extension similar to Phantom. Second is SDK, and we have few notable clients that are integrating now. Request just finished integration, and it allows privacy for any type of transaction within their network. And the last one is dApp, and dApp is really used as a safe. So if you ever use Safe, you probably remember experience. You connect with your MetaMask or any other wallet, and then you create wallet and you unlock Safe with your MetaMask. So in a similar manner, we act as a like you can maintain security and key management with your current wallet and have privacy of Hinkal. So you basically sign the message with your Fireblocks or MetaMask or Phantom wallet, and then every time you want to use private address for any type of dApp, you unlock it with your public UA. And this is done mostly for institutional usage because it's kind of switching costs for wallets are quite high. How can we make sure we can enable them privacy without the switching costs? Here from a roadmap standpoint, right, last year we became the biggest privacy layer with 250 million in volumes processed, mostly institutional users. This year we are focused on payments and integrating full composability because we still had limitations before. It was only dApp with few functionalities, even though it was the best solution in the market. And now we are scaling this up, making it this as composable, as user-friendly, and finally, as you saw with the hug and with few criminal precedents this year, as well as all data that you can see with memes and how this data is actually leveraged in Arkham or Nansen. This problem, we've finally reached the tipping point of this problem where privacy of the wallet data is becoming important and actually became important. So we are super excited to scale this up and actually create this new category of invisible composable wallets. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Here's our contacts.
Can you tell more about that execution? How exactly it works?
You want to?
Yes, so there is aggregated smart contract where users hold their shielded addresses, which are generated from some secret that user knows. User can deposit to his shielded address within the smart contract. And let's imagine that now you want to do transaction with Uniswap. Since outsiders shouldn't see who is doing this transaction, and the relayers are actually executing this transaction, sending their source of transaction, what user needs to do, he needs to provide call data to the relayer. And what does this call data include? So this call data includes actual call data of, let's say, Uniswap transaction. It includes ZK proofs that the user has enough funds in a smart contract, so smart contract can release these funds for the transaction. And third is the stealth address structure. So when you, let's say, swap in Uniswap, you need to deposit back to the smart contract, but you need to deposit to some address, right? And this address is the one-time stealth address that you generate and supply to the aggregate call data that you pass to relayer.
Okay. So that means you are generating each smart contract, or the smart contract generates the new addresses.
New stealth addresses within smart contract, yes.
Yeah, smart contract generates, and I just then deposit, and it's basically like, I'm depositing to any address. It just goes into the smart contract, and then I can withdraw from it because I can prove that I had funds in that, right?
Yes, that's true.
And are these layers like centralized, or like how these layers work?
Currently, they are centralized.
Okay.
We are decentralizing them because we need some crypto economic security. So we're introducing Hinkal token for network of relayers, and the most important condition is uptime. And if like you don't have enough uptime, you will slashed your collateral essentially.
Maybe you can also talk like what's the downsides of centralized layers, because I mean there is no way people can like relayers can steal money or money can be lost, because it's a very predetermined function of relaying transaction. So actually, even with centralized relayers, funds are always safe.
Yeah, so relayer cannot modify call data. Once he modifies the call data, proof is failed. This essentially is the integrity of the transaction.
So the biggest problem that can occur is that transaction won't happen, will be failed, right? And then you can withdraw even without relay.
So double spending is not the case. The only possible case is liveness problem.
Okay, got it. So you need proof, so that's why centralized layers cannot do anything.
Yeah, only liveness.
Thanks.
Cheers.
So all the relayers are pretty much TEs, and they're generating ZK proofs as well for the databases?
So we differentiate relayer role and prover role. So relayers are just submitting transactions on chain, but provers are different players who execute these transactions on their machines.
So in that picture, it would be somewhere right below relayer, or is it a whole separate kind of layer, would you say?
So they sit. There's no errors, but they sit in this layer, and
Okay.
yeah.
But I'd assume they should also be part of the network with crypto economic security, I'd assume.
Yes, I didn't mention it explicitly, but we give user choice essentially to generate proofs on their client. Takes longer time, but it's possible. So the point here is that we provide additional facilities, but you're still safe.
So until and unless you integrate a chain, we cannot use that chain with Hinkal, right?
Yeah, now we have 7 chains, 7 EVM chains that it will be available. It's like Phantom. Phantom has like 4 chains.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.